Arvind Kejriwal broke his silence on the Punjab results today and alleged that the EVMs may have been tampered with, resulting in more votes to the Congress in that state. BSP chief Mayawati has made a similar allegation already and is now going to court. The BJP, however, has hit back, saying neither have questioned the EVMs when they won big majorities in Delhi and UP earlier and are just sore losers.
पंजाब के अंदर पहली चीज हमारी पूरी शंका है कि हमारा 20 से 25% वोट शेयर अकाली दल और भाजपा के गठबंधन को ट्रांसफर किया गया। सिम्टम्स हैं कि गड़बड़ हो रही है। बीमारी क्या है इसकी जांच करने पे पता चलेगा।
Days after his party came a distant second in Punjab, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal today claimed the election may have been rigged and demanded a probe by the Election Commission.
ये अरविंद केजरीवाल का संतुलन जो मानसिक बिगड़ गया है वो सीधा दिखला रहा है। जब पंजाब की जनता ने इनको टोपी पहना के अपने घर वापस भेज दिया है तो अब इनसे हजम नहीं हो रहा।
Kejriwal's allegations come just days after BSP chief Mayawati's sensational claim that the UP polls were rigged. But today Behenji claimed the smaller states were spared from EVM tampering.
इनकी ये हुई भारी जीत ईमानदारी की जीत नहीं है। ये जो छोटे राज्य थे मणिपुर, गोवा और पंजाब में छेड़छाड़ नहीं की।
बहन जी 2007 में जब विधानसभा के चुनाव हुए और उसमें बसपा की जीत हो गई, तब ईवीएम मशीन अच्छी थी। और दिल्ली के विधानसभा चुनाव हुए, अखिलेश जी ये केजरीवाल जी 70 में से 67 जीत गए, तब ईवीएम अच्छी थी। अब अंगूर खट्टे हैं।
Today, the Election Commission said the Commission once again completely reaffirms its faith in the infallibility of the EVMs. These are fully tamper-proof as ever. The poll panel today, in fact, turned down an appeal by the Aam Aadmi Party government, backed by the Congress, to hold the upcoming municipal elections in Delhi using the traditional ballot paper because time was short. With Sandeep Phukan in New Delhi, Siddharth Pandey for NDTV.
Well, joining us first on the program tonight is Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, the former Chief Election Commissioner. Also with us, Mr. G.V.L. Rao, National Spokesperson of the BJP, who interestingly wrote a book back in 2010 questioning the way that EVMs work, and that was actually titled Democracy at Risk, Can We Trust Our Electronic Voting Machines? So Mr. Rao, you know, you of course know better than I do about what you said in that book, but you had talked about the fact that Germany held electronic voting as unconstitutional in 2009, that our EVMs are prone to tampering in many ways by external hackers, the danger which the EC refuses to acknowledge, you said, is insider fraud. How does that square off with what is being alleged today by Arvind Kejriwal and Mayawati? Do you still stand by that, what you wrote?
No, Nidhi, there is a fundamental difference. What I did is a piece of academic work, and I have not leveled any allegations against anybody. And today what Arvind Kejriwal is indulging in is actually trying to throw muck at the Election Commission and the electoral process itself. I did this as an academic study, and we brought out various vulnerabilities that could possibly leave some room for any kind of possible manipulations. And I'm glad that Election Commission had taken note of all a large number of points that we have made, and appointed a technical committee under the chairmanship of a professor from IIT Kanpur, and implemented wide-ranging recommendations. And one of the recommendations I had made in my book was to implement VVPAT. I'm glad eventually, I think Election Commission agreed only when the Supreme Court mandated it to implement it. But eventually, anyway, I'm happy that these improvements have been made. But Election Commission possibly required more time to implement this on a nationwide scale, because they already had a large number of machines of a previous vintage, and they could not, one, junk them, as I understood from their explanations, and secondly, they could not roll out a complete nationwide EVM with paper trail in a short period of time.
But
so
Mr. Rao, do you stand by
reform?
Do you stand by what you said at that time in the book, which was that our EVMs are prone to tampering in many ways by external hackers, insider fraud, that manufacturers, developers, vendors could have access to EVMs, and field reports indicate there is room for strong suspicion of insider fraud. Now, this is everything that you wrote. As you said, it was a piece of academic work, but do you believe that this is still possible? And I'm asking you academically.
No, I have answered that right at the beginning. After we came up with Election Commission, initially was not willing to even consider any reform, but when we came up with this book, I'm happy to say that they eventually saw a lot of merit in what we were saying, in at least a large number of points and vulnerabilities that we have pointed out. Appointed a new technical committee, made certain improvements in the administrative checks and balances, and also I think made certain technical improvements. So to that extent, I'm extremely happy, and even VVPAT was implemented, but it's currently not rolled out on a nationwide scale. Possibly, I think it will happen in due course of time. So that's a decision that the Election Commission had to make.
So you believe today that the EVMs, and I'll ask you two questions here. The first being that do you believe today that today's EVMs are now tamper-proof? Are they foolproof, tamper-proof?
No, I think compared to the 2009 situation, even then we never alleged what people like Kejriwal indulging in today, like some votes have been stolen from here and there. But we pointed out these are vulnerabilities that must be addressed, that must be rectified, that must be improved upon.
The EVMs
and I'm
are no
happy to say
longer
a large
vulnerable?
number of them have been implemented.
Okay, but so
No, they are not as vulnerable. Certainly they are not vulnerable today because of the administrative checks and balances they have introduced in the entire thing. So one has to really understand what all happened before we came up with this research, and subsequently thereafter. A large number of improvements have been made. That is what I can say.
One of the important things and you said this yourself, that the need to have the paper backup and the paper ballots as a backup, the VVPAT as it's called for our viewers. And Mr. Advani in fact wrote the foreword to your book where he's talked about the fact that Germany has been wary of EVMs and the US mandates the use of this paper backup, and the poll panel needs to consider changing the law and strengthening democracy. Now, the Supreme Court, as you said, Mr. Rao, had mandated that there should be this paper backup, but it hasn't been implemented in full. Going forward from here, would you suggest strongly that that should be done across the board, across the country, so that there is no doubt at all that is ever raised about the authenticity of a result?
No, I had stated this in 2009, and we continuously argued for it. And in 2013, when the Supreme Court gave the verdict, gave the order, I think the Election Commission willingly accepted it. I think even before the order, if I remember correctly, Dr. Qureshi could correct me. I think even before that, Supreme Court Commission went to the Supreme Court and said we are already in the process of implementing it. I'm happy with the progress, but this reform happened because of our efforts. And I would only compliment the Commission for having an open mind and subsequently making those changes. But I would certainly want the VVPAT to be done on a nationwide scale at the earliest possible. The Commission should certainly consider that.
I think that's a good point, and I know you have to leave, Mr. Rao. Thank you for joining us tonight. I want to take off from what you said first to Dr. S.Y. Qureshi. We also have on the panel with us Ashish Khaitan of the Aam Aadmi Party, Mr. Bhartendra Singh, a member of Parliament from the BJP, Pawan Khera from the Congress Party, Shahid Siddiqui here in the studio with us, and Mr. Pawan Verma is also joining us from the JDU. But Dr. Qureshi, let me ask you first. You've actually said in your comments on this entire row that the Election Commission should proactively and aggressively counter any doubts that have been raised by leaders of various political parties on this issue. How exactly do you think that they should do that, sir?
You know, after the BSP complained, surely they had written back to the BSP denying all the allegations, but I was surprised that the media did not give it due coverage. They have been talking of the controversy on a large scale, but nobody highlighted the answer which Election Commission had given. So instead of keeping quiet for 3-4 days, Election Commission should have come out very aggressively, because the way the rumor was spreading like wildfire, which is not good for India's democracy, and it is for the Election Commission to dispel the doubt of the last man. Therefore, keeping quiet was not a good policy, and I'm so happy, as I just heard from your bulletin, that they have now come out again, which is a good thing. In fact, if I was in their position, I would have called a press conference because and nipped it in the bud, because these thoughts which will put question mark about the fairness of the system cannot be allowed to penetrate.
Actually, what the EC has done, Dr. Qureshi, is put out an earlier press release from, when they had invited people to come and look at the EVMs in 2009. And so they've put that out again, explaining the entire process, why Indian EVMs are different from those in other countries. But can I ask you, do you believe that our EVMs are completely tamper-proof and they are safe?
Yes, absolutely, they're tamper-proof. We have said it repeatedly, and in fact, not just GVL Narasimha Rao, but every political party at some point of time, every one of them, without exception, has questioned the machine. And ironically, after coming to power with the winning with the same machine, they have chosen to keep quiet. At least they should then say that this was a mistake to make an allegation. The machines are dependable. In fact, I would, if GVL is still there on your show, we had also bought 2 copies of his book. At least he should refund the cost of those 2 books.
That's
he cannot
sure
make an apology for making a wild allegation.
Well, he's not on the program any longer, but Ashish Khaitan, let me just ask you on this point about, every party making this allegation when they lose. That is a fact, because before the Delhi Assembly elections, Arvind Kejriwal had actually tweeted expressing concern about the EVMs at that time, and actually tweeting and suggesting that all the votes were going to go to the BJP. That didn't happen. You guys got 67 seats in a 70-member assembly, and then any talk of any tampering completely died down. So the question is, why are you raising this now when you haven't done as well as you thought you would in Punjab?
We have been debating this from the perspective of one political party or the other, or from the perspective of the Election Commission. Obviously, Election Commission will come out and say that, look, these machines are tamper-proof, because this is what they believe. It is their conviction, and we respect that conviction. But what we are missing in the debate is the perspective of the common man. Mr. Qureshi pointed out that this is spreading like wildfire. It is spreading like wildfire not just because of the accusations or the charges leveled by BSP or some other political party. It is spreading like wildfire because commentators like GVL Narasimha Rao, because professors from Michigan University, because independent experts from Bangalore and people like Hari Prasad at one time or the other quite convincingly had put out thesis and research out in public domain demonstrating to the satisfaction of many that the EVM machines can be tampered, and that it can be tampered in many different ways. Today, if the people in Punjab, the villagers in Punjab are not convinced with the results, if people in Uttar Pradesh feel that this election was rigged, then it is not merely the satisfaction of the election commissioner
but where are
or
those
one
people
election
in Punjab
commissioner,
and UP?
it is the satisfaction of the common
but
man that matters.
Ashish, it's a fair question. Where are the people in
I'll
Punjab
come
and
to
UP who are saying that these elections were rigged? I'm not seeing them.
Those are voiceless people. Now come on, Nidhi. You don't expect those people to come and petition the Election Commission or the Supreme Court.
What do you mean
I am saying is
how do
that you introduce VVPAT machine.
Perhaps those mythical opinion pollsters of yours.
No, because
Okay,
it is a serious allegation that is being made. I'm asking that.
Let me complete.
Yeah. So where are those people that you're talking about who are complaining about this, except the political leaders
Yes.
who lost?
So we today in a press conference, today pointed out people from 2 villages, from 2 booths where they are ready to give an affidavit, a sworn affidavit that they had voted for political party A, when that party, which in this case was us, only got 2 votes when we have 25 affidavits, sworn affidavits that we actually voted for you. These are the people. And now let's come to the VVPAT machine. I'll just make this point and end my argument. VVPAT machine were introduced by Election Commission. They were instructed by the Supreme Court. VVPAT machine, as of today, the way they are being operated, they work only to the satisfaction of the elector, not to the satisfaction of the electee, because there is no cross verification, suo motu cross verification and tallying of electronic results with the physical results. Why can't Election Commission come out and say that randomly let's pick 5 constituencies out of the n number of constituencies, the VVPAT machines, and let's tally the electronic results with the results from the
issue of the VVPAT
and
is
the
an
debate will
important one.
rest.
Because that's what even GVL Rao was saying, that the BJP also supports that and says you should have a paper backup. And before I come to the panel here, Mr. Pawan Verma, you know, what do you think of these allegations?
But paper backup needs to be tallied.
No, so that's what
As
I'm
of
asking.
today, the paper backup is just
I am really not going to get into so much about what has happened in UP and Punjab, Mr. Pawan Verma, because frankly, to me it sounds absurd that, you know, an election can be rigged on such a massive scale. But do you think that there is merit in the argument that we need to have a paper backup that can tally the EVM's votes? And is it possible? I'm going to ask Dr. Qureshi that as well, but Pawan Verma, to you first.
First of all, elections in India are the largest organized human exercise on the planet. And I think the manner that they have been conducted by and large has shown a progressive improvement. The EVM machines are running in India in all constituencies since 2004. And I don't believe that there is a mens rea which can be identified which shows that in this particular 5 assembly polls, there has been organized rigging through the misuse of the EVMs, which accounts for the results that have come. Let me add that there is no system as yet invented in India which is entirely tamper-proof. But I think you have to devise a system, as I think the EVMs represent, which comes closest to be what the Election Commission has said, that tamper-proof and security and from the highest security standards. Now, what I cannot understand is that the same political parties, when they win elections, find nothing wrong with EVMs.
Exactly.
And when they lose elections, suddenly come up with the fact that there is something wrong with the EVMs. Let me also just end by saying that EVMs don't run in isolation. There is an administrative apparatus that works with them. And thus far, I think the Election Commission has done a commendable job. So I think that after these results, however much you may be disappointed by what you believe you should have got and what you did not, to point a finger to organized rigging on such a massive scale with totally different results in 2 states, in Punjab and UP for instance, I think does not hold merit, and I think the Election Commission should come out and categorically put at rest these rumors. I believe the VVPAT system should come in. It has been progressively introduced. We should strengthen systems where we can. And the Election Commission can look into specific allegations. But a generalized system of discontent
Absolutely.
or disappointment channelized against the Election Commission on a generic complaint against EVM machines is not warranted and I believe not desirable.
On the same question that I was asking Pawan Verma, not getting into these allegations right now, but is having a paper backup going to be, is it something that should be mandatory and should be there?
No, I absolutely agree with this aspect of our EVMs. We should definitely make it as foolproof, as satisfactory for everybody concerned as possible. After all, we are talking about our democracy. Questions should be asked. There is no harm raising questions. We are not as sensitive as some of us in power are, that if you question something, you are threatening our democracy. No, we are not threatening any. Everybody has a right to question. As far as their allegations are concerned, I may or may not agree with, I don't think I agree with them. But if they've questioned it, please satisfy them technically. Don't get politics into it. They're technical experts. Let them come and satisfy them. After all, they are also stakeholders in our democracy. Why shouldn't they be satisfied? That's my humble submission.
That you mean that the onus then is on the Election Commission to then satisfy
On
Mayawati,
anybody who can,
to the BSP
who can satisfy
and,
them technically. Of course, why not? Now, GVL, when they were out of power, suddenly, now he says now everything is fixed because of administrative. Even then he had raised technical issues and now he says they have been fixed administratively. I don't understand this dichotomy. So, when we are out of power, we start blaming the government is in power. When we are in power, we forget everything that we have done. Congress party definitely respects these questions. Let these questions be answered. We may or may not agree with these questions.
well, you and Pawan Verma and Pawan Khera are saying a similar thing, and I'll take that to Bhartendra Singh, which is that let the Election Commission at least come out and answer these concerns. and put them to rest. Would you say that and that's something even Dr. Qureshi is saying, to that extent, that the EC needs to be very aggressive in how it handles this and puts it to rest? Would you agree with that?
I completely agree with that, that there is always space for improvement in any machine and any model of working. But having said that, I think what the current system is fairly foolproof, because the state administration is ultimately the returning officer of the district, is the district magistrate, and the SDM is the returning officer of the MLA constituency, who basically work under the state government. So if the Samajwadi Party loses in UP, it shows that they are not rigged. If the Congress Party loses in Uttarakhand, it again proves the same point. And similarly for the BJP and the Akali Dal losing in Punjab. When Sheila Dikshit loses in Delhi and AAP gets a sweeping verdict, there is no question put on it. It would have been, it's actually not the credibility of the Election Commission that the people are questioning. And, when you make absurd comments like this from political leaders, actually it puts a question mark on the leaders and the political parties. And unfortunately, all this bad precedence gets followed very quickly. We had Mayawati ji questioning, it was quickly followed by S.C. Mishra ji, and soon followed by the MP Congress President Arun Yadav ji about the local elections in Ater and Bandhavgarh. So this sort of trail carries on. So it's very easy to question a good system. It's very easy to break traditions, and in a democracy like Prime Minister Manmohan Singh not being a member of the elected Lok Sabha. Mayawati ji immediately followed it. She didn't fight the election again. And it was so surprising that somebody who hasn't even fought an election since 2002 is today questioning the electoral system. So, it's very easy to break tradition, but in a democracy...
Is there a link there? The finance minister is not a member of the Lok Sabha.
We must respect... No, the leader of the House...
Anybody and everybody can question anything and everything. I'm sorry. Questioning should never be stopped.
No, but you have to maintain respect and tradition. And the question... If the question is of the...
Just because she does not contest election, she cannot question it. I'm sorry, that's a very, very...
The machine being improved...
It's not sound logic.
You cannot... No, one cannot question constitutional bodies.
When GVL questioned it, fair enough, we welcome those questions. These questions are always welcome.
One second, Shahid Siddiqui, there is a problem here. When we get into this territory of don't question, respect tradition and don't question constitutional bodies, that's where the problem comes in.
I don't agree with that.
I agree with what Pawan Verma said, and I also agree with what Pawan Khera said, but I disagree on one point with him, that question, yes, question, but don't spread rumors. Don't question the whole system.
Agreed.
Come up with specific complaints, because if you do that, you are doing it disservice to Indian democracy, to Indian voters, to the Election Commission, which performs a hugely impossible job, and the whole world appreciates Indian democracy because of the way we are able to conduct our elections. But I will say that I am not questioning the EVM machines, but yes, there needs to be a lot of improvement in the way we conduct our elections, and there we should go into. I am not for this 7-phase election which takes place in UP. It influences the minds of the people. It brings in lot of expenditure which should not be there for the 7th phase or the 6th phase. With the technology we have today, we should do it. We should do it in 2 or 3 phases. Earlier, when to say paper voting is what will bring transparency, I don't agree with it at all. I have seen it all over the country that leads to lot of rigging, and especially the underprivileged classes, the Dalits, the poor, they are unable to vote and use their ballot. So this machine has allowed lot of freedom to the groups which are not strong enough, especially in the rural areas.